Hello, good evening, welcome to Easy 8 Online Painting Club. My name is Danny and welcome to Season 4. I call it Season 4, it's just the 4th year of running Easy 8. Just to let you know, I am quite poorly today. Been poorly for a few days. I've just got a cold. I'm fine. It just means that I'm a little bit low on energy. My voice isn't normally what it is, and I might be coughing a lot with a runny nose. Otherwise, I've been saving up all my energy for this evening's show, so I will do my very best to make sure that I deliver nothing but the highest quality of entertainment this evening. Anyway, how are you guys? I hope you've been well. What an eventful week it's been. I got older. It was my birthday on Tuesday. That's Halloween for you guys out there. I'm now 42. I'm now old and distinguished. So I brought a glass of wine. Cheers. Happy November. Happy Season 4. Happy Friday to everybody. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm 42. 42 years old. Crazy, crazy. What I've been doing for the last, I suppose, few months, 6 months, maybe even longer, is kind of focusing on my 40k collection because, you know, Warhammer 40,000, it's the 41st millennium, I was 41. It seemed like, you know, a decent thing to do, bit of fun. But I've been doing a lot of 40k stuff lately, so this week I promised that I'm going to move on to something different. Moving on to something completely different this week, and I'm going to tell you all about it when we get started in just a second. I noticed that we've got Staff and we've got Jeff. Cheers, hi, thanks very much. Stafford, good evening, community. He's like my PA. I like that. That's very cool. I'm not struggling that much, but my voice is really struggling to keep up, so I do apologise for that. We'll get there. We'll get there. If you're new, please do subscribe. If you like what we do here, every little subscription from you makes the show go a really long way, and it makes me feel really happy about running the show. This is the place where you can come along and paint your miniatures along with me, along with these guys over here, wherever the live chat appears for you. So yeah, come along and join in live if you want to, or watch it back on the replay for a little bit of company, perhaps a bit of motivation while you're painting your miniatures. I know that I need the time allocated every week to get everything done, and this is the place for you to come along and do it too if you want to. If you are doing something this evening, do tell me about it. I genuinely am interested in the things that you're painting. So if you're so inclined, take a photo. You can stick a photo up on Facebook if you like, because we're not just here on YouTube, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're also on Discord. I got them all right, yeah. We're on Discord if you want to join me for a live video at the end of the show, on the Discord at Easy 8 After Party. I told you it was going to be a difficult one this week. We got T-Bouncer that's also joined us. Hello. Hi, T-Bouncer. Thanks very much for coming along. Nice to see your name there again. Stafford says it's not a cold, it's man flu. I'm really not that bad. I have been really quite poorly last couple of days. I've got through my birthday celebrations, early birthday celebrations, so I had loads of friends up. That was lovely. And then by the time I got to my actual birthday, I was just like, my partner's been looking after me. Fortunately, I booked the whole week off work so I could enjoy my birthday celebrations at home. Poorly, not doing anything. Great. Cheers. Staff says he's finishing off my new case for my water tanker collection. I'll let him tell you all about that as the show goes on because it is quite exciting. He told me all about it. He showed me a photograph. It was great. Works better than any medication. A little bit of alcohol. Booze. I'm not drunk. Okay, I don't do drunk. So, yeah. I'm going to be working on some little railway sections, which I'll show you in detail in just a second. I wanted to, before we really get stuck into the show, give another shout out. I have mentioned these guys before. I wanted to give them a proper shout out. This is Ironclad Miniatures. Stafford, myself, Jeff, loads of people from the Easy 8 community went to a show in Exeter. May the 13th, I think it was, earlier this year. Loads of fantastic traders out there, loads of sterling stuff, and we came across Ironclad, the first time we'd ever seen them, and they were doing all sorts of scales, like 28mm, 15mm, so on and so forth, historical terrain builds. So this is a piece of railway section. The quality of this product and all of their products was absolutely astounding. I know that there's loads of people out there that produce loads of good stuff, but this stuff is just worlds apart. And I got chatting to the to John and his daughter Samantha. I hope I got those names right. Just really exciting to chat with them, have a good old merry with them. And it's been ages since I bought this stuff, and I haven't put paint to any of it yet for various reasons. I've been doing other stuff, but it's time to paint these up. Now this is going to be for all the 15mm World War II war games that I play. At the moment, I only really play Water Tanker. it's not a silly game. It's a fun game. It's really, really fun. But there's no sort of inter-unit tactics. So you don't have like foot troops to go along with your vehicles like you might do in Bolt Action, for example. It's just you take a tank, maybe a couple, and I often play in sides. And so like, you know, maybe the Axis versus Allies or something like that. And yeah, you just duke it out as tanks, and it's really, really good fun. And I'm just trying to build up a table's worth of varying 15mm scenics. So I saw this stuff, and I was like, yes, I want to have an industrial railway with an industrial park on the side of it. So I'm going to be putting some paint to it. And now, it needs a little bit of cleanup. It's not going to take an awful lot of time because the quality is superb. And we'll get over onto that in just a second. Jeff says, just cut the second row of timber-framed houses. Loads of stuff going on today. Don't forget, go and pop a photo up of it on Facebook if you want to show it off to the world. Anyway, let's get on over to the workbench. Don't forget to subscribe and follow the channel on Facebook. Here we go. Oh, I did it. I did the whole talking over the transition again. It might be Season 4, but nothing's changed in terms of my unprofessionability. That is a word. I don't know if it is or not. Anyway, okay, cool. So look, just look at the quality of this stuff here. Now I'm hoping that my auto focus is going to pick this up. Is it going to pick it up? Come along now. Any second. There it is. The quality of this stuff is absolutely mind-blowing. You can see all the wood grain in all the railway sleepers. You can see all the individual pins that hold all the bits down, or basically the railroad spikes. The actual girders that make up the rails themselves. Absolutely astounding. Absolutely astounding. Really, really good stuff. It needs an ever so slight cleanup. Every now and again I come across like a little flaky piece of resin on here, because these are resin molds. That just needs kind of lifting out and up and out of the way. However, if I didn't do that and it was secure in place, it would just look like it goes, you know, along with all... Is it ballast? Is that what it's called? I know that ballast goes in ships, but is this called ballast as well? All the stuff that goes along like the railroad tracks. So this is just all going to be like grey shingle, gravel, all the way along. Not the first time I've ever done a railroad track. Jeff, who is my dad, by the way, there in the live chats, who owns and runs and builds everything at Purple Lion Creations. We did a 28mm. The Germans are just saying, yeah, okay, whatever. German player, ally player here. I helped Jeff build a 28mm German railway with like a factory on the side of it, and I hand painted all of the. I think it was there 12 feet of sections? I can't remember. There might have been even more than that. And I had to hand paint every single one. And it was really fun to start with, and then painstaking as the time went on. Yes, it's ballast. Cool, brilliant. No, I know what I'm talking about then. It was an absolute nightmare, but it's obviously twice the size. So, yeah. This shouldn't be so bad. I'm going to keep it really simple. I'm going to paint all the shingle grey. I'm going to paint all the rails potentially rusty metal, and I'm going to do bright silver across the tops of them because they get polished through use quite easily. And then all of the sleepers, I'm just going to do those in a nice dark wood. I might make them a little bit lighter than I normally do to make them stand out a little bit. I don't want it all to be too dark. And that's it, really. Once I finish doing all of that, I will make the middle bits a little bit greasier, because as trains go over them, especially the old-fashioned trains, steam trains, etc., would leave big, greasy, old, dirty marks across the middle. So I'll just get a little bit of black stain and just I'm not going to go crazy with it, but I'll just run it across the middle there. I'll do fuel stains as an enamel weathering tool, paint substance, but I think that might be too much for the scale. However, it's not just this one 6-inch section that I've got here. Jeff says it was 12 sections that I did with that other one. Yeah, it was fun, and it looked phenomenal when it was all together. But the thing is, I painted it once and went, that's the wrong colour, and I had to redo it all. To avoid that problem, I'm going to be doing just this one 6-inch section here today. What I have just to the side of me here, you'll notice I've got a little platform with some brickwork on it. That brickwork goes all the way around. Underneath, it's just the bobbly resin bits with all the air bubbles in it, but that doesn't matter because that's the bottom. On the top side, textured concrete, and then some steps. The steps are separate because I could put them on whatever side that I wanted to. Oh, I'll make sure that the bricks go the right way. There you go. So the steps could go here, they could go there. If I wanted to, they could go here, whatever I like. and it does have a little bit of overhang lip on one side, which I believe is where the trains would shunt up to. Shunt? I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't really know trains. I like trains, I just don't know much about them. Anyway, so I've got 2 of these. I've got 2 platforms, 2 sets of steps. The other ones are actually in a bag somewhere just behind me over here. Behind this white curtain is my storage, and there's boxes and trays and all sorts of stuff in there, and the rest of all my stuff is in there. But just to kind of give you an idea of the other bits and pieces that I've got a junction. This one needs a little bit of leveling out. That's fine. I've actually got an extra piece. Oh, got the wrong one. Hold on. Oh, it goes on the other end. Like this. So I've got this section here. And then I've also got... Make sure I get it all right. Here we go. A double section here. So this would come on from my single section on the end. Make sure that I'm not damaging anything. So I've got a single section here. Goes into the junction, which takes up actually nearly 12 inches, and then it goes off into a double here. And then for the other side, I've got another piece. Now you'll notice that the colours aren't the same. That's fine, that doesn't matter at all, because it's all going to be painted. It's just different dye quantities in the resin itself. And I've also got this section here, which has got like the crossover. It's wonderful stuff. The camera is not focusing very well, or is it just me? It might be the camera, because it's on autofocus. I should be able to stop that and control the focus myself. I'll take it off autofocus for you now, and see what that does. I used to have it on my little stream deck over here, working on this camera, but I've changed it because the camera quality wasn't very good for that, for working here. Anyway, so yeah, so hopefully, if I was to hold it up here now, it won't focus at all. Anyway, I've got this little crossing, which I think is really lovely. There is this little bit of damage here, which I mentioned the first time I pulled these up back in May. And that isn't testament to the quality that you get from these guys, from Ironclad Miniatures. That is me knocking it slightly when I got it home and came out the bag. I've kept that piece, it fits perfectly. A bit of super glue. I could even do like a little bit of pinning underneath if I felt it was necessary. But I've got all the stuff to repair that. That's my fault, it's not them at all. And I've basically got 8 sections of this bit here. So this is one, I've got another 7. They're all in the bag along with the other little platform piece. I'm not going to be painting any of this stuff today. Just testing the colours out on this one. If it works really well and I get through it fast, brilliant, I'll make a start on the rest. But that's basically what I've got. So, you'll notice as well that a couple of the pieces don't fit all that well together. I'm just trying to work out which piece it was now. Where is it? Was it this piece here? Yeah, so if I put these here, there is quite a gap between these pieces here. You can see that. Others fit together seamlessly, others fit together a little bit rougher. That's fine. That just needs a little bit of sandpaper. This is really fine resin. A little bit of sandpaper, basically I'll make just a little bit of jig, or I'll hold it on a flat surface and I'll just sand those edges down until they marry up and match up perfectly. And it's actually the rail tracks themselves that are causing the problems. They just overhang a little bit. It's fine. It's not going to be a problem. Of course, I hope. But the rest of it is absolutely top-notch quality. I couldn't be happier with this stuff. So just pop those over there. And the platform can stay there. So here we go. I've just been going over it with a little brush just to get any dust and fluff off of it, because they've just been sat here in the studio. Most of them have been sat on a drawer, but a few of them have been sat out on the workbench for ages. And well, you know, my house, it's full of cats and cat fur, and yeah, it was plastered in dust basically. So I just add this soft but stiff brush. It's very gentle, but because it's got a bit of bounce to it, it's really good at picking up any dust and hairs and things like that on there. Every now and again I get a tiny bit of flash just on the outside, and it's quite noticeable because it's really thin. It's not a part of the actual mould. The tiniest bit of overspill from when they're pouring the resin. I've been over this one quite a bit. All I've got is like this little needlework bradawl thing, and all I've been doing is just like I'm doing flint work really, and just breaking off any of those little bits. And as long as it's not a massive bit, it's not going to make a whole world of difference. There's a little bit in there. Let's just break that off. Lovely. every now and again I find like a little piece in here and I'm like, oh, is that supposed to be there? There's a bit in there. Nope, that can go. But like I said, for the most part, it's if it looks like it belongs, I'll just leave it, because you'd have ballast everywhere, right? We do get ballast everywhere. Often these little tiny flecky bits are quite obvious. There's a piece there, quite obvious to see because they're so thin. They're almost translucent, and like the light sort of shines through them, and they stand out quite a bit. But there we go, cool. So, interesting story time. When I was speaking to John and his daughter Samantha, who are both very keen model building people, we were talking to them for ages about their stuff and making models and Easy 8 and Ironclad for ages, to the point where I'm sure that we were just getting on each other's nerves after a while. We weren't, but you know what I mean. As I was walking off, Samantha said, try painting purple for this. As I was walking off, I was thinking, oh, that's something that I'd like to unpack a little bit more, but we've been there for such a long time and we were actually due to leave, and I didn't really talk to her about what she meant. So I don't know. That's something I kind of want to explore. I did send an email, but you know, people have got lives and it's not always easy to respond to an email very quickly, and I only sent it yesterday, to be fair, in anticipation for today. But what I think she might have meant is that purple might be a good base for grey on the ballast. I don't know. So I don't know what you guys think. There's the obvious part of my head that says undercoat it or prime it all white or grey or black or whatever, and then do a series of grey dry brushes, maybe do a stain wash over the top in black or very dark grey, and then pick out all the details. But purple seems to be like a colour that might work well behind grey. I don't know. I'd love to know your take on it. Tell me what you think. Is purple a good colour as an undercoat or a primer for grey? I don't know. You'd get all sorts of weird colours in ballast, wouldn't you? And you know, the way that light works off of it, and you know, oils and grease, and you know, purple seems to be an interesting colour to want to play with. Should I give it a go? Should I put purple on it? Should I prime it all white and then put purple down? Or should I just do it all black and then just dry brush it grey? Interesting. I don't know. So I thought I'd ask you guys and see what you think. Hopefully, staff, the camera's not bothering you anymore. Hopefully it should be all in good focus now. What I can do is zoom in a little bit. I think we're going to zoom in, because that's as far as I can zoom in with this camera, I'm afraid. Because I'm not going to be doing very much brush work for the first part. It's all going to be airbrush. Speaking of which, I'm going to pop the compressor on. There we go. So yeah, I think what I'll do is I'll prime it black. Black seems to me to be a very good colour to start with, because it's the base colour for all the greys. If I start dry brushing it nice and lightly, take my time doing it, I should pick out all the details, and I'll do it in like 2 or 3 gradients, working up to quite a bright one. I should have a nice level of contrast, and there's a lot of detail on here. It's very, very deep and raggedy, so if I don't go too heavy with the dry brushing, then you focus too deep in one area, I should get a nice effect over it, as long as I'm even with it, and then pick all the details out later. But if I did it white, or sorry, even if I did it black, I could do like a light overspray of purple over the top, and just see where that goes, I suppose. Before I get started, there is a nasty little lump on the side here, which I just want to kind of remove. I'll just use my old carving knife here. What's this side like? A little rough. There we go. Right, this is going to require a spray sheet and some black primer. I've got a big thing of black primer here. I'm just going to give that a shake. haven't actually washed the airbrush out for a while. Could do just a quick loosen up. So I'm just gonna pop the needle out briefly and just give it a quick once over. Yes, just a bit dried and gummed up in there. Cool. Make my job nice and easy for myself by just keeping that airbrush flowing smoothly throughout the whole evening. I've actually had a couple of days where I've been doing nothing, and I should have been doing quite a bit, but I've been really quite rough around the edges the last few days. So I've just been sat downstairs, just binge watching Netflix. I finished The Walking Dead. Been trying to finish that for 12 years. I've been watching it. So I finished that the other day. That was good. Yeah, I've been quite poorly. Steve Jenkins has joined us. Hi, Steve. Don't often see your name in here. How you doing? Hope you're well. Thanks for coming along. Thank you for the epic picture of a ballet space marine in the Facebook chat. That was everything I needed. You'll be pleased to know that while I haven't painted the colour of that space marine for that helmet, in my mind, he was killed because he was ballet dancing. So you can count that as a win. Cool. Let's make sure that I've got no blockages in the nozzle. Wonderful. There's a hair in the nozzle. Let's get rid of that. So what does everybody think about the purple? Is purple a good colour to go with? I've got a selection of purples, and the impression I got was that it was just normal purple, so not anything as dark as a violet or anything like that, but purple, you know. So the purple that I've got here, it's like purple. But I've seen like purple and grey being used before to complement each other, and I just wonder if it's like the perfect primer colour for grey. Almost there. Excellent. What I'll do is I'll just put a little bit of water through there first, just to loosen up anything that might be in the hopper. Oh, just drop my knife on the floor. Lots of hearts coming up there. Thank you very much for the hearts. I don't know what they do. It's nice to have them. Dave, Lester and I were chatting the other day about, he was like, do you always see the hearts? I always smash the hearts. I see them. They cover my screen. Thank you very much. Yeah. I don't know what they do. I just think they're there to get attention. Right. I'm just going to put a couple of drops in here for now. And just see how far that goes. Okay, so I'm going to go for a black primer, obviously, as you can tell. I'm just going to make that nice and light to start with. Nice to be finally getting some paint on these bad boys. I hope that they'll look really nice. That's like the obvious thing to say, isn't it? Is that a crack pipe? Yep. Repurposed to spray paint. We came here for two things. Spray and paint and smoking crack. I'm all out of crack. I'm not out of crack. I never had crack. I don't smoke crack. Crack is bad, kids. Unless it's plastic crack, in which case, come along and paint the plastic crack. So I could, like, essentially do an undercoat of purple. I could do a wash of purple. That might take a little while to dry. I haven't managed to bring the hairdryer upstairs today. Didn't think that far ahead. Looks smart already, doesn't it? I am actually quite nervous about this project because I remember what it was like to do the 28mm sections at Purple Lion Creations, and it took weeks of just around-the-clock dedicated effort. I'm just hoping that being a smaller scale that they're nowhere near as traumatic, basically. What I particularly like about this at the moment is it's obviously black obviously absorbs a lot of light, so there's a lot less reflection under the lights, so the details are much more obvious to me without having to kind of like put it close to my face and focus really hard on it or anything like that. And it looks really smart as a matte feature. Okay, I'm all out of primer in the hopper, it's fine. Could do maybe another drop in there. There's a few little gaps here and there that I want to make sure that I'm getting completely primed. Basically, not because I want it as a something for the paint to cling onto, the next layer to cling onto. It's more about just making sure that I've got that base layer of contrast. What I've noticed is that as I turn it sideways, like this, there's a lot of grey looking down it. I don't know if that's more obvious to you, but obviously there's so many different angles to come at because of the ballast on this particular model, that I have to make sure that I come in from different angles. So I'm glad I moved that. I'm glad I didn't wash the airbrush out before I had to come back to it. I'd like to apologise for the energy levels in my voice today. I'm feeling good. Just haven't done an awful lot of talking, I suppose. Still recovering. Also like to apologise for last week. I was very poorly last week, just out of the blue. IBS here. Most of the time I'm absolutely fine. I've always got a stomach cramp to a degree, and my stomach is always making noises. Sometimes the pain's just unbearable and I just got to get up and walk around. Go to the bathroom. So yeah, apologies for that last week. Thank you all for being so kind about it as well. Everyone was like, yeah man, just go take yourself another break, it's fine. Which is great. Thank you very much for that, and apologies again. Hopefully, don't have to do that again. There we go. So that's all the primer done. Just gonna give that some air just to help encourage and accelerate the drying. Jeff says, always thought that because it's 15mm it's going to be harder to paint. Just saying. Yeah, subconsciously that's kind of what I'm thinking and trying to avoid thinking about. But the problem I had with the 28mm build was the sleepers more than anything. Because it's easy enough to kind of pick out the top surfaces, but they are three-dimensional, and even on these ones they are as well. So they have depth, which means that you have the top sides and then you have the edges, and that bit was really tricky. Being smaller, there's less of it. I'm wondering if I just can speed paint my way through it, and then use a unifying wash to kind of cover everything over afterwards. That's my trail of thought on the subject. But yes, you're absolutely right, it's smaller. It could just end up being a complete time sink It's going to be fun, but I've got a lot of sections to paint. I think I've got 16 in total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 14 sections. Right, I'm just going to give them a quick rinse out. The airbrush, that is. Good news, the case is finished. Bad news, I need another case. I understand that you got a good deal on that case, Stafford. Could you tell the world all about this wonderful new case that you've got for putting all your 15mm tank models in? Dave told me about it all the other day. It's taking a little while to drain. Needs a bit of a clean. There we go. Lovely. Right. Do you know what? I'm going to give it a go. I don't know what kind of purple to use. I've got 3 purples and 1 pink. Here are my purples. So I've got like a really dark violet. Really, really dark violet. I've got your standard bright warlord purple. And then I've got what they call alien purple. So I think that this is more the colour that they might have been talking to me about. And I think this might be a good base for working on with the greys and things. I don't know whether to use it as a primer or whether to use it as a wash, where I would basically add a medium or water and just splash it on all over. I don't really know. Any thoughts that you guys have got would be great. Yeah. And while I wait to see if there's any kind of response on that, I'm just going to take a little swig of my wine. Dave Lester's joined us. Hi Dave, thanks for coming along, mate. Do you need same size of guest staff? Evening. Yeah, apparently so. Got me an ammo can from Cobberton for only £10. It's a big one as well. So yeah, what does everyone think? If I could actually maybe give that one a bit of a shake, because it looks like it's black on the thing there. There you go. Very, very mid-90s sort of colour. I think this is the colour that they were talking about. Maybe do it as a wash, maybe spray it down over the top, and then just dry brush grey. If it all goes wrong, the airbrush is really good at keeping layers thin. I could just go back over with another primer, start again, you know? So I think, I know there's a bit of a delay, but I can see how the purple will work, but then I use house paints. I can't see how the purple would work. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know. Is it too dangerous, do you think? Is it going to be a dangerous thing? Shall I just start by doing a grey one? Let's just start basic. Okay, cool. It might be that once you've done all the greys, like a really, really light purple wash over the top of it all, and then like a highlight dry brush after, just to kind of bring the brightness back out again, might be kind of what she was suggesting. I'm just intrigued by the idea of a purple for the stones. Okay, right, so I don't really have any brushes for dry brushing. I've just got some like old synthetic brushes, etc. I've got a few here. I've even got like a watercolor brush, which is it's quite soft. I want something with a bit of body to it, bit of a belly, so that it will hold a decent amount of paint. These ones here, they're quite nice, but they're quite small when you consider I've got to do quite a large area. I did have, and I have lost it. Let's see if I can find it. Chinese text brush, and I got it for experimenting with dry brushing. Unfortunately, don't have it here, which is a shame. Never mind. Let's see if I can dig it out. It must be in one of my pots. Massive. You know, I've got masses and masses of pots here somewhere. Maybe it's in here. It is not in there. No. Okay, that's fine. That's okay. Oh, I do have these. These are also like weird little craft brushes. I think maybe even makeup brushes, perhaps. They're given to me by Jeff. I've got 2 of these. These might actually be interesting to play around with. That is very soft. Okay, do you know what? I'm going to use that. I'm going to use that instead because that is bigger than any other belly that I've got, and I just want to do large surface area nice and quickly. This is a little coarser. This one's very soft. I think that soft is what I want. It's got a lot of body to it. It's also ever so slightly rounded. I know that having like a rounder effect to your brushes for dry brushing is generally better. So yeah, I'm going to give that a go. I know that having the white sheet affects the brightness levels of the screen, so I'm going to take that away. There we go, and now we can see things a little bit better. Yeah. We can't hear you when you lean away from the mic. Yeah, I'm aware of that. It wasn't really that important. Wasn't that important. Right. Let's get some greys. Now, I've got all my airbrush greys. I've got cold grey, stone wall grey, wolf grey, which is slightly bluey purpley, which is not really what I wanted. And of course I've got all of my Games Workshop or Citadel ones as well. And I think that these might be nice colours to start with. So, just to make it a little bit different from all my Tyranids, which I'm so used to doing, I might just do like a Skaven Blight Dinge, which is a very browny sort of grey, and it wasn't really what I was looking for on my Tyranids before. I bought it just to kind of experiment with them. It's going to give that a good old waz on the Wazomatic. It's been a long time since I've used this paint, so I'll just give it a real good buzz. There we go. So it's almost like a browny grey. And what I'll do is I'll just scoop a load of this out, pop it on the palette for control, and then I'll dry brush. And then I'll work my way up through 2 or 3 different greys. Let's see what it looks like. Now, I thought this one would be a good colour to use because it's quite grimy, but also to me it smacks of I don't know, it sounds daft, but World War II colours. So you know, everything had like a layer of grimy grey to it back then. Maybe that's just the way that we see it in popular media, or even in, like, you know, photographs and stuff from the time, but it just seems to be the right colour. Now, I don't have a texture palette. I would love to have a texture palette, and perhaps I should make my own one. So I'm just kind of wiping it off onto some paper for the moment. I know that I should put a tiny spot of water into my brush. And that will stop the paint from being chalky and when I start dry brushing. Right. Let's see what this looks like. We'll start at one end. There's very little feedback from the model, so I might need to go to the slightly stiffer brush. That's a nice colour, it's working for me. Okay, I might try the other one, ever so slightly stiffer. Jenkins says, is that a functioning track? No, not at all. Like electric railways, or you know, like the train sets and stuff that you can get that are out there, have their own scales, their own gauges, and I don't think that common war games match up to them. I could be wrong on that. This is 15mm, which is 1/100 scale, and I don't know how that matches up to the classic scales of trains that are out there. So no, it's literally just molded resin. So there's no like electric terminals or anything that kind of run through it at all. Need a bit more paint going through that quite quickly. You know what I'll do? I'll just no, they say don't take it from the pot. I was going to take it straight from the pot. You shouldn't do that. That's much better, actually. I thought the other one being softer would be really good, but no. Now, I know that when dry brushing, you should try to use as much of the roundness of your brush as possible. So, like, proper expensive dry brushes are very, very rounded. And as you're stroking the brush, rather than just kind of going up and down with it, you should be like trying to flick across the whole surface and go as, you know, either focus in one area or kind of go across the whole thing. I'm trying to get an even effect across the whole model here. So I'm just, you know, basically doing this. You can see we go through quite a bit of paint on this. That's fine. Being such a small handle brush, don't know why it's that size, but it's quite difficult to get into it, and you miss having the longer handle. Could strap it to another brush, I suppose. Seems a bit overkill. Feels like I need slightly deeper coverage, so I think I need to get into the ballast a little bit more. Not totally in there. But what's going to happen is I want the black to be a real background colour, the grey to be quite dominant, and then as I go brighter with highlights, then, you know, they should be progressively smaller quantities. This is going quite fast. It's phenomenal the amount of paint that I'm going through. That's fine. Interesting so far. Bring my lights in a little bit. There we go. I think 16mm is N gauge closed scale. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know much about model trains. They're cool, but yeah, I know very little about them. I know that S gauge is a rare one, and that is 1/54th scale, not 54th, 1/64th scale, and that is the same scale as Hot Wheels. I know this because Gaslands. Okay, nice to see how this sort of brush compares. I would like to have a little go with this one, or similar brushes like normal brushes, just to see how how different it is. Is it faster to use over larger areas? Is it just as accurate? I don't know. Again, scoop out a good quantity of this colour. Tiny amount of water in the bristles. Jeff says, next time you're around, have a look at my brushes and help yourself. I do have rather a lot. Alright, thank you very much. I do know that a proper dry palette will help loads. Sorry, dry palette. Texture palette. Oh, here we go. Let's have a little look. Let's just see. I've got a feeling, it being a smaller brushes, I'll end up with actual like brush strokes in the piece. Let's go to this side here and see what difference it makes. little bit more difficult actually. Okay, I'm going to go back to the other one. Just seems to go through quite a bit of paint quite quickly. It's much faster. Just trying to work it into the bristles, so that as the bristles kind of rub against all of the different details on there, they should individually flick some paint rather than just being on the outside edges. I really want the purple thing to be a thing as well. I might try and play around with different purple washes and things. If you've any idea, come and have a chat with me on Discord at the end of the show. If you think you know what it might be that I'm talking about. So I am going to take it from the pot. I am going to do it. I need there to be lots of paint here. That might be that smaller brush that I was using. The regular one might be a good one to use in here to pick those details out in there, because they seem to be quite difficult to get with that other brush. Oh, interesting, if I push quite hard with it, I get like the edges of the brush pushing down. And that gives me some sharp definition as well. I want to make sure that I get as much definition from the gravel as possible. Jenkins says, how will you make the track stand out from the base? I'm just going to pick it out with detail. So I'm actually going to go in with a detail brush in a minute, which I've actually put away. Here it is. This little brush here. I'm going to go through and pick out with like a brown colour, maybe quite a light brown colour for contrast, all the sleepers, and then the rails will be done in like a really bright rust colour, and then the tops of the rails will be done in bright silver. Oh, a combination of the two brushes here is working really well. There was a part of me when I was buying these that was thinking, oh, maybe I should get like some actual train set tracks instead, and kind of actually move into the idea of actually having a train set that you play war games on. But I thought that's two different hobbies, and I didn't really want to spend the time crossing them over. because I don't really know anything about train sets, and I feel that I've got enough projects to deal with, you know? This is doing a good job here in the middle. Oh yeah, that's good. That is good. I really don't like these little Citadel paint pots. It's just closed on the paintbrush. Right, I think that's all I'm really going to get out of this colour. There's lots of contrast there. But it's not going to go any brighter because the grey is just not that bright a grey. It's quite a browny grey. Okay. I wonder if like doing a grey undercoat would work best and then do like a wash of black over the top. Lots of different things to think about, but with a wash, excuse me, especially with a sludge wash, there's a longer drying time involved, obviously. I could have used Storm Vermin Fur, which is an even more brownier grey. Let's just give that a good shake. Might be a good colour to use. Maybe I'll give that a go. Okay, why not? I will. Good old scoop of that to the palette. Again, browny greys. Very subtle quantities of brown in that colour. But very, very different from everything else. Just putting an ever so slight amount of water in this brush here. Because that's actually going quite dry and crispy. There we go. Don't know if you can see the colours here on my palette. My piece of paper. Let's see what this does. This is a really nice colour. If you like your greys. Which I do, by the way. This is fun though, because it's such minimal effort, which is what I was really looking forward to today. But you get quite a lot of result for your effort. One of the few places where I actually like using dry brushing on high texture like this. I've said so many times in the past, dry brushing is just not something that I really like all that much. I used to use it too much, I used to rely on it too much as a substitute for a lack of talent. So try and pick out detail really quickly. Actually, if I'd spent the time and learned to deal with that detail better, I'd probably be a much better painter by now. So yeah, I've got beef with dry brushing. But as you know, the industry, the hobby itself kind of gets more time behind it, I suppose. People experiment, make new things, new techniques come out, new products come out, and of course those dry brushes by Artis Opus, extremely expensive, but the technique of dry brushing has been completely re-explored and reinvented. And if you've got £80 to spare on a single brush, you should look into it. Now you see how I kill so many brushes. Yeah, absolutely I do. This one's holding up though. This one's holding up. In the intermission I will go and have a little look for that Chinese text brush, because it's a very bulky sort of belly. And it's very soft. With a nice handle on it that might mean it's easy for me to to manipulate. I like this colour though. I've had it for ages, not really had anything to do with it, so it's quite nice to be able to find something for it that I really like. In a minute I'm going to start working my way up with a series of really bright greys, just picking out the tops of these details now. So this colour will sit in the background as a background colour. Don't need to over-explain it. Jeff says, did they make any trains to go along with the track? Good question. I don't think they did. They did make a load of resin buildings, and I was extremely tempted to get a few. However, all of my buildings in 15mm are all laser cut MDF, and the difference in the styles would have been so different. It would have been too much for my simple mind, basically. So I decided to not get their buildings. They were very good, and they do come away floor by floor, even at that scale, which I think is incredible. So yeah, if you're looking for some buildings to go along with your train tracks from Ironclad Miniatures, because you've been inspired by this show, they do all sorts of stuff, but I don't think they did trains. I don't think they did trains at all, even for their larger scales. They might do. There is a link to Ironclad Miniatures downstairs. Oh, so sorry for bashing the microphone. Downstairs in the description of this video. Really sorry about that. Stafford says, so Cobberton have a sale on this Sunday. If anyone fancies a trip out, I may not be in the county. I may be going to Cornwall land, because I've got family down there who want to see me for my birthday, because I haven't seen them yet because I've been poorly. But otherwise, sounds great. Just trying to work out what the happy medium is for this in terms of layer. How much do I need to put down before I go, do you know what, that's enough dry brushing now? And would it be better if I was to actually get a base of this colour down, then wash over the top? I don't think it is, because this colour I've only got in brush paints, which means I have to thin it down manually to put it in the airbrush, and that is too much effort, too much work. But I quite like that at the moment. I go over with this brush here, just to get a little bit deeper into it all. We are pretty much at that time as well for a break, so let's do that. We'll take a 10-minute break, and I'll have a little look, see if I can find that brush as well. Just a couple of little bits here, just along the edges, that are really quite tricksy to catch with the dry brush. So using this stiff-headed brush here is really quite good for just getting it into those little areas where that other dry brush wouldn't take the colour. Okay, I'm happy with that. I realised that my camera projection's actually upside down. Mike's joined us. Oi oi. Hi Mike, thanks very much for coming along. Hope you're well. So yeah, I'm wondering if that, while I like the black being the base, because there's so much depth in the detail, it's really hard to get this grey in there to make the grey the dominant colour. I want the black to be more of a, just a contraster really. So I might need to, in the future sections, is do a grey primer, or do a black primer and then just kind of hit it lightly with a grey, perhaps, just to save on having to thin paints down and things like that. Some things to consider, huh? Anyway, enough talking. It's time to go for a break. What's up, my Savoy? So, cheers. Happy Friday still. We'll take a quick 10-minute break. None of those slow 10-minute breaks. I'll go have a little look for my brush. You should go and, change your paint water or something. See you in a minute. Bye. Welcome back. I found the brush. Yeah. So give that a real good go over for the dry brushing techniques. It was a little bit grubby because when I used it, in the past when I bought it, I was basically desperate for solutions for dry brushing back in my dry brushing days before the really good brushes came out, or at least I knew of them. So I've just given it a really good old clean, and it seems to be in pretty good condition. It could do with some more for sure, but that's something that I'll do off air. So hopefully this will be a good sort of crossover between what I was just using with these tiny little, I think they're makeup brushes, but they might not be. I have no idea. They were just given to me somewhere. Yeah, this hopefully be a nice brush. It's got a good body to it, like a good belly, so it'll hold a lot of volume. It's got varying lengths as well of a bristle, so quite longer in the middle with short ones on the outside, and it's very soft as well. But without being too soft, so hopefully it'll give you some good dry brushing technique stuff. Anyway, welcome back from the break. I hope you had a good break. You should go top up and make sure that you got yourself an adult juice. Cheers. Steve there was just talking about getting reported by HR. Great, cool. If you like what I do here at Easy 8, please do consider subscribing. Every little subscription goes a really, really long way to making this community bigger, brighter, and just more entertaining for everybody. So if you know someone out there who think you probably would benefit from joining a painting club, go and let them know. Share the word. Get Easy 8 out there. I'm really poorly still, really struggling, alright? Give me a break. Go tell someone, go tell a friend, go put a poster up at work or something and get them to come along and subscribe. Even if they don't watch it, get them to subscribe anyway. Why not? Oh dear, I'm feeling so much better, but it's just hard to talk, alright? Let's just head straight back over to the workbench, shall we? Let's stop dithering around. So, just before we went away, Jeff was just saying, I think you started off too dark. I think you're right. It's a shame because there's so much depth in there. I like the fact that the black really pulls that out, but it's too dark, and that's a shame. So I'm going to start again. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to my spray sheet here. That's the one I use for my dry brushing as well. And I'm going to go over with a grey a grey primer. Which I use this for quite a lot of stuff, actually, for a lot of my 1/35th tank builds and things. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to cover over the whole thing, starting again, and I'm then going to do a unifying wash over the whole thing using my new favourite, Basilicanum Grey. Basilicanum Grey, for those of you that don't know, is a contrast paint from Citadel. I genuinely think contrast paints are a bit of a gimmick. A little bit of a novelty. However, some of them are very, very good, and this is one of them. This is probably the best one. I use this in a 50-50 mix with water, which just helps break down the surface tension a little bit, because they are really strong filters, essentially. And you've got a very short working time with them. Adding a little bit of water breaks that tension down and gives you a little bit more working time and just stops the intensity of the colour. And I use it on all of my silver. So if I'm doing metal on things, which you'll see Gazgul a little bit later on in the week, it makes metal look like metal. So the silver looks like metal. It's probably a good way of explaining it. But I started using it on other things. So when I was doing the Gazgul build, so hard to say when you've got a cold, the Gazgul build for October, I was doing all the checkers on him, and I was freehanding those. And it's the first time I've ever done freehand to such an extent. The white against the black really stood out so stark. It was just like, wow, there's some white, and it really showed up where I wasn't all that good. Put a thin layer of this across the top of it, and it blended everything away like it was an awesome thing. So this might be something to work on. It might be that it's absolutely rubbish and I go and use another thing like Nuln Oil, which I've got here in spades, but I want to give this a go because it dries quite fast as well, because that's what contrast paints do. Anyway, look, grey primer. Let's start again. That's what this episode's all about. It's about exploring the colours that work well. Once I've got it working well on this one, I can apply it to all of the others, and then it's the tedious work then of painting all them sleepers and rails. Oh, that was a stiff cap, has not been used for a little while. Look at that big chonk that's in there. Just pull that out. Come on, chonky thing. It's going to fling across the room, isn't it? Please don't fling across the room. Oh, that is so satisfying. You can go over there. That hit all sorts of ASMR right there. Okay, airbrush. I'm so sorry for the snotty noises that are coming out of me. Six drops there and a little bit of dribble that just came out afterwards. Right, turn that compressor on. There we go. Okay. Sorry, dry brushing work. Let's start again. Here we go. Mind you, that's doing a pretty good job of it itself, isn't it? Don't do it. Start again. Might not be a bad idea to do black undercoat and then do a grey primer overcoat at the top of that as well, because the black is showing through it in a way that I'm not entirely against it, which is cool. I love the smell of airbrush paints. They have a very unique smell. Don't worry, gang, I am in a well-ventilated room. Probably some people out there about to show some concern somewhere along the line. I used all that up there, didn't I? Okay, cool. Finicky to get into the last few details in there. Just the last few bits though. Okay. Right, I'm happy with that. That's fine. There's that one little area just over there that to me looks a little bit less grey than the rest of it, so I will just do that little bit there. Right, that needs a really good rinse out. While I'm waiting for that to dry, I'll do that now. So much primer going through the airbrush, I need to give this a really good clean tonight. So if you're going to come and join me at the Easy 8 after party on Discord at the end of the show, do make sure that I do that, because I've got a terrible habit of just not doing it. That'll be great, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm just going to flush another load of water through it, and then I'll put some cleaner in there too. Right, now you'll notice that that grey is almost white. It's a very, very bright grey. The problem with using the Citadel colours through the airbrush is that they're really thick and I'd have to thin them down, and that's just a whole balancing act that if I'm trying to do this fast, I'm going to lose all my time into just kind of nursing this. So that's just not a likely thing. What I could do is buy these in airbrush form. I don't have them in airbrush form. What I could do to make the job a little bit faster is I could use one of the greys that I've got for airbrushes, do a colour over that to kind of set it at the right level, do my black wash over the top of it, and then go back through the dry brush steps that I was just talking about a minute ago. Here's the dry brush that I was talking about just a minute ago. It's not actually a dry brush, it is a Chinese, well, not necessarily Chinese, I think it's supposed to be Chinese, but an oriental style text writing brush, so like the traditional sort of kanji script, etc. And it's a really soft, I think it's a squirrel. It's a non-synthetic, so a natural fibre on the end there. And you can see there's a little bit of coloration in there where I didn't really look after it when I was using it. I've had it for a long time. Yeah, and you can see it's got these traditional style wraps on there. Yeah, which means that if you're being too vigorous, you will end up scratching and all your paintwork off in your model, which I've done before. Like I say, I wasn't a very good painter back when I used to do all of that sort of stuff, which is the whole point of Easy 8 anyway. Cool. Jeff says that's an okay colour, black under the grey possibly. Yeah, it just because I'm spraying on there, it's only in the deeper sections where the black really shows out, almost as if it's a wash. So where it's shallower, that detail is shallower, the grey covers more, so it's not a uniform thing that I really think would work. But do you think that the black wash over the top would work now, or do you think I should hit it with a grey colour now? Do you think I should go over quickly with this as a unifier colour over the top, then do the black? I think I should. What do you think? Always like getting your guys' opinions. Just going to give that another second just to sort of dry, just to make sure that it is completely congealed. I'll hit it with some air quickly. I'll just put a drop of this in the airbrush so we can all see what colour it comes out like. I spray it on the paper, you'll see what it looks like. Give it a good old shake, stick it on the Wazomatic. That Wazomatic's on its way out. Just a few drops in there. Here we go. It was the right colour. Do go through it quite quickly. I stain it with a dark brown, but I do that with all my terrain. It will take an age to dry. Yeah, that's my concern with doing sludge washes. I don't have a problem doing that, just that I need to make sure that I do it at a time that's appropriate around the project, And I am going to do a sort of a sludge wash in a second with that grey contrast paint. But contrast paints work differently to everything else that you're used to. They dry much faster. They were originally sold, of course, with the concept of them being like a one-slap wonder. So if you've and they do work very well for it as well. But if you're coming new into the hobby and you haven't got much skill or natural talent or whatever, and you just kind of want to make an army look pretty good, pretty fast, they're a great way of introducing someone into the hobby. And I like all of that. I think that's fantastic. I just don't think that they're very. They're not high-end skill paints, if you know what I mean. But some of them have great applications individually. So like the grey colour, water it down, makes a great filter. As you can see, that grey is a very, very dark grey that looks like it's black. I hold it against this grey here, saying that's nice. Yeah, that's good. It's a nice colour, isn't it? This might be, this colour that I'm about to use might be too light. I've got a feeling that it's going to be alright. Just going to flush the airbrush out again. Right, so silicone and grey. I'm just going to give that a really good waz, because they've got like a clay, sort of chalky clay base to them. There's so much science to paints. I've really tried to research it and understand it as well. I've been ill. I'll do what I want. But I don't fully get it. Okay, so we can see that while it's a grey, it's a very, very dark grey. And I think it's going to work just fine, personally. But I will use a nice soft brush. I've got a watercolour brush here. Very, very synthetic. Maybe I won't use it. Maybe I'll use this dry brush here. Okay. The thing with contrast paint is the moment you put it down, it starts to dry. So you've got a very, very short window of time to kind of work with it. And once it starts to form that skin, if you then wipe over it with a brush, it kind of irritates and damages that layer, then drags it, and it all sort of peels and falls apart, and you'll get bits in your paint and clean patches and colour build-ups, and it's awful. Don't do it. So you have to be very careful when you're working with contrast paints. Okay, here we go. Look at that. That's alright, isn't it? Now what I'm worried about is that primer hasn't dried properly, and as I'm kind of mixing water in with it, it's going to reanimate it. So I'm quite nervous of that. I didn't have nearly enough there. So I'm just going to mix up a whole load now and then dunk it all over the top. And I can see that it's already starting to dry. So where I would normally have that problem, having to wait for ages for sludge washes to dry, shouldn't be the case with this. But it's still going to take a little while. I wonder how well that shows up on the monitor. I wonder what you think of that. Does that look okay? To me it looks absolutely fine. I really like the way that's dried. I don't know if it's going to dry any paler, any darker. I've never done anything with it like this before, not on this sort of texture. More often just across like flat surfaces really. But it seems to have done the job. Being that it's a grey, it's not standing out like so dramatically. It makes you go, whoa. Because that's how all paints make me, make me react. All paints make me go, whoa, dude. That's quite good though, isn't it? If I was to do a black instead, I think that would be too much contrast. And what it's done, because it still has a filter quality to it rather than being all sort of washed down. I think it is still sort of staining the flat surfaces, so it's making that grey even darker, the original grey that I put down. So that's fun. Okay, let's get a dropper. Not that dropper, it's gross. Let's get this dropper. No, that's also gross. Let's get a little one. Here we go. I use little pipettes that gives me a very accurate measure of what it is that I'm pouring. So if I went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 drops of paint, wash that out there, and I could do the same with water, and I know that I'm getting my ratios pretty much accurate. Some people saying there that looks good, brilliant. I'm glad that's working. Glad you agree. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Wash that out. There we go. Staff says, so most of my tanks now have flag magnets. Excellent. That's so cool. Let's give that a little bit of a mix up. There we go. Zimmer, it didn't work then. That's funny. Okay. So that is literally a 50-50 mix of basilicanum grey and water. And I can't remember where I saw that as a little... It was something like Peachy or Duncan Rhodes, when Duncan Rhodes was working for Games Workshop. It was originally Kez in the community, Easy 8 community, that told me about it. And then she had spotted one of the guys from Games Workshop. I'm sure it was one of those two. And then I saw them doing it on a video. I'm like, oh yeah, cool. And it's a brilliant filter. Just making sure that I work it into all the details. I don't want any kind of like just flat grey bits sticking out like a sore thumb. Just making sure that I make enough of a decent enough consistency that it goes the distance. Otherwise I'm going to end up using all my paints on just a few sections of rail. Seems to be actually if I had a few more drops of water. So not necessarily 50-50 anymore. That looks a bit better. But the more water I add, the less filter quality it will have, or property rather, it will have, and the longer it will take to dry. And that first layer that I put down is almost dry now. I'm going to go over it with some fresh air from the airbrush because that will help accelerate the drying process, but yeah, it is essentially a sludge wash, so it deserves a decent amount of time to dry. Now if I compare that to... get something that will fit under the camera a bit better. Slightly different colour grey for what it started out as, but as you can see the difference in the sort of the detail, much easier to spot already. And then from that I will now work my way up through dry brushes. Just going to wash my brush out. Make sure I look after it this time. That is a sodden tissue. Let's go to this one over here. since having a cold, I've been having like a lot of tissues. I've discovered that like family tissues or Kleenexes or whatever are much better for drying your brushes off on, rather than kitchen towel, which flakes and turns to bits so much easier. These ones are much more durable because they're designed for snotty noses. Funny joke, but it really was. The black along the main track is usually soot. Glad that you said that. I've actually got some. Where is it? Some black pigment, which I was actually playing with earlier on today for Gazgirl. But I might just do like a dry brush or something across it, make it look greasy or something. But yeah, soot's interesting to know. So dry brush the pigment or stuff if you have it. Oh. Read before you start talking, Danny. Yep. Okay. Cool. I'm just gonna let that sort of sit there for a second, and I'll drink my wine. What I'm doing right now, rather than doing any sort of effect on making it look like soot or grease or oil or whatever, is just trying to provide some definition in the details before I go to dry brushing, and then I'll do all the weathering much later on. Right. Make sure there's nothing in the airbrush. Cool. Still got some pressure there. Lovely. Yeah, that bit in the middle where I added the extra water, much different quality than the rest of it. It's still very, very watery in there, but everything else is almost dry. And I can't dry brush at all while I'm waiting for it to dry. But I can move it around. That'll help dry it out a little bit, but also I can redeposit darker areas to lighter areas. That's cool. I have the hairdryer now, of course. Right, I'm going to put that to one side, and because I can, I'll do another piece. So this one here has got all the junction controls and whatever. It's just fabulous quality. Quite a few bits of like overspill on the outside edges here, but I'm quite happy to, if I find them after painting them, I'll quite happily go and just sort of pick those off. They might fracture and leave a little bit of the resin colour showing through, but I'll just edge it with a grey or a black or something like that afterwards. No big deal at all there. Actually, this was actually pretty good condition, to be fair. A few cat hairs along the way. Yeah, I can see the shiny just in there. That's a little bit of overspill, and all I've got to do is just poke at it like that. I don't have to worry about this too much, because if I paint it all, it'll just look like it's ballast, but there are some bits that do look very clear to me that they are overspill. And while maybe the average layman looking at it wouldn't know the difference, I would, and that makes all the difference to me. So, yeah. Make sure there's no dust or hair or anything like that on it. Because it seems to be that as soon as I bring anything into my house, my cats are just automatically drawn to it, you know. Oh, I have to go and sit on that lovely new thing that it is, that you've brought in. Oh, an expensive looking laptop. I'm just going to go and sit on top of that and put all my fur in it. Lush. Right, so we have determined that the grey... Oh, I'm going to do black primer first, and then do grey over the top, because it seemed to add a little bit of something to it, didn't it? So let's do that. 12 drops of primer in there. Might be too much. Let's find out. It's a super light dusting to start with. Let that congeal. It'll take seconds really. Especially if there's any sort of residue or oils or anything like that left over from the moulding process. They've all been washed, but you never know. Your first layer should be so light, so thin, that you should barely be able to tell that there's a layer on there. Let that dry. You can accelerate it by applying cold air onto it if you wanted to. But then once you've got that layer on, then you can come over with a slightly heavier layer. You can actually build it up quite quick at that point. Especially if you're doing big flat surfaces. I learned that from a Gundam painter, who really knows his stuff, by the way. So would that be the right scale? Look for Gaslands. This scale here, no. This is 1/100 scale, 15mm, as Gaslands is 164 or 164, 68. It's 164. So you're quite a bit different. That being said, you can play this in any scale that you want, and you can play Gaslands in any scale that you want, which is kind of cool. So if you could work out, I don't think it'll be too hard, but if you could work out the percentage decrease for photocopying all the templates in Gaslands, you could very easily do it in this scale. And of course, with modern printing techniques, you could print out all your vehicles. Wouldn't have to go to Hot Wheels, which is how that game was originally designed, which I love that, by the way. I love the fact that someone came up with this really silly but actually really entertaining and tactical game that was designed for a shoestring budget. You buy the rules and any terrain that you want, if any. You could just draw a little track on the floor as a figure of 8 and then buy Hot Wheels for what, £1.50? And then it just picked up a cult following, and it really is a cult following. And I love the game. I think it's brilliant. I'm really sorry about the sniffing sounds. Really like it when it's black. Quite like that as an undercoat colour. But we have worked out that the grey is much better. got a bit too much black in the hopper, so what I'm going to do is just bring another piece over here and just quickly use up the last of it. In the first one I went through that black primer really quickly, so I put in a little bit more plus some because it was a slightly bigger piece of track, but no, I seem to be making it last this time. Of course, really go the distance. There we go, okay. So how's this original one doing? Still got a little bit of drying to do. It's at this point that I wonder if that purple wash is where this would really come into play. It might just add like an extra, dimension to the whole paint scheme. Definitely that watery bit in the middle. That was just an extra couple of drops of water in the whole mix has made it so much more runnier. While I'm not going to put purple in it now at this stage after all the chat we've had about it, I am still very curious. And there is a desire for temptation in my head, but I'm not going to because I want to get them done, and we seem to have got a colour scheme that's working well here. I just can't dry brush that at all until that is dry, so it's just going to have to wait. Thank you for being patient with me. Just giving some cold air on this black bit of primer here, and then I'm going to go over with grey primer. Jeff says, I think I have just come up with a new idea for a rolling road system though. Chase the train. That's a great idea. Train track down the centre of the road sections. That's a brilliant idea. Don't give away all your content though, because you've been talking about doing stuff for gas hands for a long time. Don't give anyone the idea and let them steal it from you. There's no way of protecting your intellectual property at this stage. Not much longer now till the end of the show. A really steady pace this show. Tonight, first episode for volume 4, just because I'm so poorly, which I'm really sorry about, by the way. I feel shabby, I'm tired but not sleepy. It's just a cold. You know how it is. I do like the way that black shows through that. That's just playing with undercoats as well. Just primers. Gives you a bit of variation, a bit of contrast at the same time. Okay. Cold grey. Here we go. There is a part of my brain that's thinking, well, if you want to use the black as a contrast, why not just put this colour grey straight over the black primer? I don't think that the paint, the grey paint, has got the guts to really lay on top of the black very well. That's where primer is much heavier pigment and will cover that black much better. But I also like variations in my tones. So if a couple of grey layers are showing through, I quite like that. If something's painted grey, it's more likely to be consistently even across the whole thing. But there is no stone, no one stone is the same as another, you know. So to have lots of variations and different styles of grey, different tones and browns and blacks and all sorts of things, I quite like that. Cool. Just to give you an idea on the difference between the grey filter and the not grey filter, you can see it there. It's not a cold, it's man flu, says Staff. Yeah, sorry. Letting the team down there. Just seeing if I've lost any detail by spraying so many layers on it. Nope, not at all. Wonderful, really. So, what colours am I going to dry brush this? So, I started off by using this one here, which is Skaven Blight Dinge, which is a really dark, slightly dirty grey. I've also got Storm Vermin Fur, which I quite like that as well. And I'm just probably going to do lots of different colours and variations all over. So, you know, again, they all have like different patterns and, you know, different sort of colours over the top. From there, I'll work my way up. I won't do my normal thing, which is the 3 greys here. I won't go Eshin Grey, Dawnstone, then Administratum. I might just leave Eshin Grey straight out, go into a bit of Dawnstone, maybe even leave that out because it's pretty much what I started with, and go into Administratum Grey. This is really, really bright grey, as we all know. I've used this a lot in the past. Just give that a bit of a shake. This is almost the same colour as the surface primer that I was using a minute ago. And that will give a really bright highlight. And if I wanted to, I could even go in with a little bit of white, maybe just like add a 50-50 white and this one together, just to kind of bring the real top sharp pointy edges out. But of course the actual main detail is the tracks themselves. So by having the ballast as not being so in your face will mean that the rails will really stand out themselves, which is kind of what I want. So the sleepers will stand out and the rail should stand out from that as well. That's the plan. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to probably paint the whole rail brown, and I'll do that brown, charred brown. It's my favourite, it's my go-to. It's a really nice dark brown. I use it for almost everything, from you know, dark aged wood to tank tracks, mud, everything. And then if I want to, I've got a rust enamel technical paint from AK Interactive, and that I could run that all the way along the rail. That would just run along in one swift motion. It's a really, being an enamel paint, it's got this really good sort of capillary action. So I just do one drop and it just runs along the surface of a whole area. It will dry pretty quickly, and it won't react with the acrylic on there at all because it's enamel, and it will make it look like it's old and aged and rusted in areas. And then I'll just do a really bright line of silver across the top of the rails to make it look like where the trains are going over the top, you know, it's rubbing it to the bare metal. The sleepers, I'll probably, there's a part of me that wants to do it charred brown as well, but I've got to be careful what colour I use. I might go earth because it's a lighter brown. I want them to stand out. I don't want them to be too dark, and I don't want them to look too similar to any brown that will be on the rails themselves. This with an Agrax Earthshade or something similar, maybe even a sepia wash, that will help filter that colour down, make it a little bit darker, but will also run into all the wood grain effects that are on all the sleepers. By using a wash will help run down to the edges, the sides, the three-dimensional edges of all the sleepers, and should hide a multitude of sins, thereby speeding up the whole project, because like we were saying earlier on, the sleepers are the bit that took me forever on the 28mm build, because I had to do the edges, the sides if you like, as well as the top, and it just took a long time. Painting around every individual lump of gravel was very, very difficult. So that's the plan, and that's all that really needs to be done with them. I will do the soot layer up the middle, but it's only on this one here that's got anything different. All the others are just basically different styles of tracks. I do have the platforms, of course, and I will do those in a similar sort of grey. I don't want them to look too similar, because they wouldn't be made necessarily out of the same stone, would they? I don't know. I want them to look ever so slightly different, but I'll use the same sort of techniques on them, perhaps. You know, filters and things. So that's that, really. Anyway, let's come away from here. This is a silly place. Made it through without having to blow my nose, but I have to actually blow it now. I'll do a sniff instead. There we go. Jeff's just saying, I was just trying to work out how many sleepers you got to paint. About 20 per section. Do you know what? Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Good guess, unless you counted. So that's on the single section. So that's 20 on those. I've got 8 of those. That's 160 straight off, isn't it? On the bit that... the junction, I've got... Well, they're just extra long ones there, aren't they? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23... Yeah, I've got about 300, I think, to do. Maybe 250. I will count them all by the end of the project. Jeff says, dry brush very, very lightly with a buff colour. Very, very light. Yeah, maybe. Maybe that's a good way of doing it. It depends on how many I've got. And yeah, we did that on the big build because it was easier to do a dry brush on bigger details over across the whole build, wasn't it? Dave says dark oak or a mahogany. How do I achieve those colours? Have you got any ideas? You know quite a bit about wood as well. I don't know what colour mahogany is. Is that like a reddy sort of a wood? I don't really know. I'll do a bit of research, I think. I like researching for builds. It's quite good fun. Anyway, that's it for me today. I wanted to do something very, very different from everything that I've been doing recently, because you guys always watch what it is that I paint, and for the last, I don't know, the whole year, I think, I've been focusing so heavily on Warhammer 40,000 that it was time to go back to something historical. So, well, here I am doing it. But it's also nice to do something that's terrain and not miniatures. I was talking to my partner earlier on. I'm either doing monsters or aliens or people or tanks or something like that, but it's nice to do something that is scenic. And it's going to make the boards that I play on so much more nicer. And all my friends out there have been like doing trenches or dragon's teeth in the houses, so it's nice to kind of also pitch in and do something terrain wise as well. So yeah, hopefully this won't take me forever to do, and you'll be able to see me work all the way through the project. Once I've got this one thing nailed down, I'll be able to hopefully zoom through all the others, and you'll be able to watch me painstakingly paint 250 to 300 railway sleepers. Yeah, so much fun. Also, thank you so much for being patient while I am poorly. I am doing so much better today, but as you can tell, I've run out of energy through the whole show. I hope to be, and I'm sure I will be, much brighter and much better next week. Yeah, we've got now about 4 weeks before we go to the Recon show in Pudsey, which is between Bradford and Leeds. That is hosted and run by the Pit Gaming Shop in London. Hi guys, hope you're well. Really looking forward to going. Still don't really know what it is that I'm going to do fully. I know that I want to display the stuff that I've been painting, and the guys who, a lot of you guys who've been painting stuff want to show your stuff up at that show as well. That's cool. That would be great to show that off. I'd like to do a stream while I'm there, but it does depend wholly on the internet connectivity that's up there, and how does that actually go? Do I sit there and do some painting? Have I got the facilities to be able to do that? Do I go around and see all the vendors and traders that are going to be there? Are they going to be happy with me streaming and kind of showing them off? Hopefully they will be, because I think that'll be quite nice to do. Matt, who is in charge of the Pit Gaming store, hi Matt, did mention that he wanted me to be a judge for a series of painting competitions that are going to be there, so that's potential for streaming that as well, if they're happy for that, or just to be a part of it all. It's just going to be really, really nice. There's me and a few of you guys from the community who are going up as well, so we're going to go up and represent Easy 8. Only 11 to 12% of Easy 8's viewers are actually based in the UK, which is an astonishing figure. And we've got 133 subscribers. Thank you so much for subscribing. So it would be really nice to spread the word across the UK, because it's the home turf, right? We should be doing that. So, if you like what we're doing here, please do consider subscribing, because such a small gesture from you is such a precious statement at this end over here. I can see people are already commenting on Facebook. Don't forget that we're not just here on YouTube, we're on Facebook, Instagram and Discord, where you can join me for a short while at the end of the show. To go and join me on a live chat if you want to. Off air, but if you're just going to have a little video chat, then I'm going to be there at the Easy 8 after party. There are links to all of the platforms all down there in the description of this video. Go and check them all out. And there's also a whole collection of links to people and service providers and businesses that I've made friends with over the years of doing Easy 8. Go show them some love. Go and subscribe to their YouTube channels. Go and follow their Facebook pages and buy some stuff from their shops, because they're all really cool people. Ironclad Miniatures are definitely in there. They're almost right at the top in there. Go and check them out because they make some superb stuff, and you won't be disappointed with it if you go and buy it. Anyway, I'm going to go and get another glass of wine, because alcohol is the only thing that's keeping me going today. That's really sad to say. Thank you so much for coming along this evening, and I'll be back next week with more railway tracks. Until then, stay safe, be kind, keep on painting, and I'll see you soon. Take care now. Bye-bye. Wine, 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 lovely, lovely wine. Anchorman reference.